Let's pray and we shall begin. Father, thank you for today. Lord, just pray that you help us, help our minds to be sharp and attentive, Father, not to get distracted as we finish up looking at fungus and start to look at plants, just the wondrous things that your hand has wrought here on earth, and how you've fitted all things together for our good and for your glory. Praise you for these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, y'all. Well, we've been on fungus. It's a bunch of words you ought to know. Fun words, right? Like saprophytic. What does that mean? Decomposers. Good. That is their major role in the environment, right? And last time we looked at something like this. Right? And we learned all kinds of stuff from this. What should be outside of this? Well, that is the fairy ring. What should be outside my fairy ring?
Grass.
Yeah, really tall, really bright, really green grass, right? And why is that? Yeah, because it's, how do these things eat? How do these things do their digestion? Yes, bring the bodies, right? And so as they're digesting all these nutrients into raw materials, they're then going to bring, that food's up for grabs. And so the grass or whatever else is able to absorb it well. And so they just create like the best fertilizer right here, right? It's up for grabs. And so why are they doing that? Why do you see mushrooms all of a sudden?
They're reproducing.
They're reproducing. Why?
They think they're about to die.
They're expecting times are about to be tough. It's time to go ahead and reproduce. Why are they in a ring shape?
Because they grow in every direction.
They grow in all directions. Where did it start? The center, with a spore, with a single spore. Very good. What kind of stuff do you get that looks like that? I mean, it doesn't look like that, but you know what I mean, where it like grows out in a ring. It has the name ring in it, ringworm. It's not a worm. It's a fungus. Name some other fungal diseases. Athlete's foot. One more. Yeast infections. Good. What do all those things have in common? What do fungi and archaea and bacteria and protists, what kind of environments do they all really thrive in?
Humans.
Huh?
Humans.
Moist, humid, and
Warm.
warm. Right. Okay. Very good. What kind of fungus is that? What's its common name? Do you know its common name?
Club fungus.
Club fungus. Good. Do you know its scientific name?
I do.
Starts with a B. Basidiomycota. Now you understand you're going to have to know that for a test, right? Not this test, but the next test when it comes. You must know Basidiomycota. You must know Ascomycota. You must know Deuteromycota. You must know Zygomycota, right? Which one is like a mold on a bread? Zygomycota, right? Good. Which one is like a morel mushroom with these little cups and pockets and stuff all over it? Huh?
Still one that starts with A.
A. Ascomycota. Okay, good. And if I have a fungus living with symbiotically with a blue-green algae or some other kind of algae, what do we call that? Starts with an L. Grows on trees. Lichens. You think you're never gonna know that? Yeah. There's no maybe. I need another mutualistic symbiotic relationship with fungi. There's one more you must know. Mycorrhizae. Myco means fungus, and rhizae refers to a root. The name tells you what it is and where it's at. Where will I find a mycorrhizae? Plant roots, right? What does the plant get out of it? It's mutualistic, so everybody benefits. What does the plant get?
Nutrients?
Nope.
Water.
Water. What does the fungus get? Yeah, gets glucose. Good. In a lichen, what does the fungus get? Glucose. And what does the algae get? Water and nutrients. Very good. Okay. You got to know those things. Okay, good. So we were looking at big picture, holistic stuff. This is, if you really understand, you guys understood the broad strokes of this, but make sure that you understand the details of this. This is telling you a lot about a fungus. This is telling you about how they get their nutrition. This tells you where most of the organism lives. Where does the most of the organism live? Underground. You don't see it. It's like the tip of an iceberg, literally, right? Like by the time you see a fungus, that thing is almost dead. It's all over the ground. It's decomposing things, decaying things, recycling nutrients into the environment. This is huge. If this doesn't happen, we live in a pile of leaves and we die. There'd be nothing, What happens when you die? What happens to your body? Before modern embalming and all this, what happened to your body? You just become part of the environment again, right? Given enough time, you will just ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Right? The Bible tells you what's going to happen. You will just become an ooze at first, and then just melt in, and then a grass or whatever, like your atoms that make you up. Unless you go embalming yourself so that it doesn't do this, they'll just become part of the environment. That's all there is to it. Okay. Well, we need to go back and we need to hit some of the details of these guys, some things that I left out before, because these guys do some cool things. Yeah. Most fungi are multicellular organisms. Name one that's not. Taught you how to run a still. How to make moonshine last class. Drew you diagrams. You gotta have yeast, right? Most fungi, not yeast, are multicellular organisms. They display two distinct morphological stages, a vegetative, where it's growing, and a reproductive. What do you think the reproductive looks like? I'm not sure, right? The rest of it, you don't ever see. Okay. The vegetative stage consists of a tangle of hyphae. Whereas the reproductive stage can be more conspicuous. The mass of hyphae is a mycelium. Okay, so let's do this. Hyphae equals, we're going to call it tissue cells / tissue. Then a mycelium. You've heard this part before, right? I mean, it's all over the fungus stuff, right? Mycelium. And this is basically the body of a fungus, right? What's it made of? It's made of hyphae. Can grow on a surface, in soil or decaying material, in a liquid, or even on living tissue. Although individual hyphae must be observed under a microscope, the mycelium of a fungus can be very large, with some species truly being, okay, that's just stupid. The largest organism, single organism on Earth, is a fungus, a single mycelium that's over 2,000 acres underground. I don't need you to know that, or at least not for a test, but isn't that interesting? Bigger than gray whales, blue whales, elephants, bigger than anything, is a single fungus. It's huge. All right. Most fungal hyphae are divided into separate cells by what's called a septa. or septum for the singular. In most phyla of fungi, tiny holes in the septa allow for the rapid flow of nutrients and small molecules from cell to cell along the hyphae. Okay. So here's what we're saying. Most, which means not all, hyphae have septa, which separate individual cells. Get that written down. Kind of dry, okay? Have you known anybody who had to have surgery because they had a deviated septum? You ever heard that term?
Yeah, but my brother doesn't.
Okay. You at least heard the word septum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so where's your septum? Where's your septum? It's in your nose. It's, you know, if you were to go picking your nose, don't pick your nose. But if you were to go pick your, wait till you have kids, they pick, they don't have to be told, they just run around, but I have boogers. So that's that little thing between your nostrils that runs way up there, that's called your septum, okay? So a deviated septum, now here's your nostrils. A deviated septum is like going off to one side and causing problems. So it's hard to get your airflow through here, right? Okay. So the idea of a septum is separation, all right? That's the whole thing. That's why I'm taking time to talk about a septum while you're, writing. If you write faster, I wouldn't talk about your nose or draw pictures or talk about picking it, but there we are. So most, but not all hyphae have septa which separate the individual cells. So you imagine this long strand of a cell, okay? Maybe there are many. Long and slow. And some, but not all, have septa. So cell walls that kind of separate these things as they kind of branch out and do their thing. And these septa tend to have little pores in them, little openings that would allow nutrients and liquids and other things to flow freely through them. They can exchange materials very rapidly with each other or with individual cells, or you think about even how you have these that exist in plant roots, right? And so they actually grow like into the root and they freely exchange materials. Very useful for that. Now, what is it that's separated? Is it the cell membrane? No, it's the cell wall, right? So this is the cell wall. This would be a septate cell wall. And this would be an aseptate cell wall. What does A mean?
No.
Without. Okay. So some are separated, some are not separated. Which is very different than other organisms that we've studied so far. It's going to be very different than plant and animal. Plants have some unique cells too, but this is very, very different. It's a wonderful adaptation for their lifestyle, right? They grow into and on surfaces. They need a large surface area to be able to get at the nutrients that they're going to decompose. So they're very, very thin, very, very long, lots of surface area. Your cells don't tend to be like this. Your cells tend to be more spherical in shape, which maximizes a surface area to volume ratio. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to maximize the surface area. More surface area, more digestion that can happen. Okay. Most fungal hyphae are divided into septa. In most phyla of fungi, tiny holes in the septa allow for the rapid flow of nutrients and small molecules from cell to cell along the hyphae. They are described as perforated septa The hyphae and bread molds, which belong to phylum Zygomycota, are not separated by septa. Instead, they are formed by large cells containing many nuclei, an arrangement described as coenocytic hyphae. So, let's look at coenocytic hyphae. What does co mean? Let's look at this word coenocytic. I do not believe you don't know what the prefix co means. I know that you do. You just got to think a little bit. Co, N-O-cytic. Okay, so co is one part of this. NO is another, and cytic is another. What does co mean? Together. Together. Okay. So together. NO. Or N. E-N. Or endo. It's the opposite of exit. Or X. It means inside. So together, inside, and cytic. It's the root of a word like cytoplasm. Where do you find cytoplasm? Inside of cell membranes, right? Together, inside, say cytoplasm, okay? These guys are, you've got a cell, or a cell wall here, okay? And typically what you would expect is this. You'd expect a cell wall, and you'd expect one membrane inside, you'd expect one nucleus inside, right? This would be the norm. Everybody agree? This is what you expect. This is not coenocytic. This would be septate, okay? This is coenocytic, which is a specific type of aseptate, and so we have to draw this. And I do have to go ahead and draw a membrane. But now, I have a lot of nuclei.
Except the cells merged together.
Isn't this kind of crazy? Coenocytic. One cell wall, one cell membrane, many cells, kind of the idea of many cells merged inside of it. Let me read it again for you, okay? The hyphae and bread molds are not separated by septa. Instead, they are formed by large cells containing many nuclei, multinucleate, an arrangement described as coenocytic hyphae. Fungi thrive in environments that are moist and slightly acidic and can grow with or without light. They vary in their oxygen requirement. Most are obligate aerobes. This is a good time. These words you have to know, okay? I'll throw some more vocabulary at you.
No yawning.
You'd be bored too.
Supposed to do.
All right. So we have obligate aerobes. Obligate anaerobes. And facultative anaerobes. Okay, are there any parts to these that you already know?
Arrows and arrow.
What does aerobic mean?
With oxygen.
With oxygen, right? So these guys have something to do with oxygen, right? How about the word obligate? Or obligate?
Like it must have.
Must have it, like an obligation, it must have oxygen. How about anaerobe?
Without.
An means, pencils down. It'll do you a little good to get those on your paper, right? And maybe you'll go back and study it, maybe you won't, but let's try to get it here first. Aerobic means with oxygen. Everybody good on that? Prefix "an", no matter what it is, it always means without, right? So anaerobic means without oxygen. Aerobic with, anaerobic without, okay? Bio, what does that mean? Life, abio. Not life, good. Anbio. What did it mean here? Without life, right? Exbio. Ex, I'm making stuff up now, I'm just checking your Greek. Exbio, or ectobio. How about ectobio? Outside life, endobio. Inside life, cobio. Together life, symbio. Also together life, good. Co-enobio.
Together inside.
Together, inside life. Co-ectobio. Together, outside life. Monoectobio.
Single.
One, or singular,
Outside.
outside life. Symectobio.
Together.
Together,
Outside.
outside life. Obligate ectobio. Must have outside life. Obligate anaerobe, or obligate aerobe. Must have oxygen. Obligate anaerobe. Must not have oxygen. Good. Facultative anaerobe. By our context, you can probably, it's different than obligate. Obligate means must. Facultative, like to facilitate. Facilitate, like we can work with it, right? Facultative anaerobes means we can work without oxygen. Is that their preference? No. This is what yeast do, by the way. Like they prefer to have oxygen. But if they don't have it, they can live. These are terms you must know.
These are not that hard because these words are easy. Basidiomycota, it's a little hard to.
What does mycota mean, or myco?
Then I know it's fungus, but.
Yeah, it's whether we're talking about mycelium or mycology. What's mycology? Fungus. Myco means fungus, right? Okay. Mycorrhizae. Fungus, root. You hear myco, the rest of your life. Look, if you take, not that this is the only thing, but if you took nothing else from like these days in this class, just the rest of your life, if you saw the word myco in front of something, or the prefix myco, I would want you to go, well, that means fungus. And you're going to see it. Now, once you become aware of these words, when you start looking at stuff and hearing things about nutrients or food or medicines, or you go into a Whole Food store, you're going to see these things. And And you'll know, oh, myco, that means a fungus. I would love you to know a lot more than that. But it's not for nothing that I want you to know these words. I'm telling you, scientists are not that creative. They will tell you what it is, what it does, just by its name, right? Coenocytic hyphae, it's right in the name. Co means together. N-O, inside. Cytic, in the cytoplasm. So what's together inside the cytoplasm? Oh, nucleus. Like you can start to see it. Oh, I got this one big old cell thing. Oh, we're sharing all our cytoplasm. Oh, I've got all these nuclei in there. And hyphae refers to their tissue or their cells, right? So, okay. Basidio. Just, I don't know, you just gotta focus. Like, I don't know why, but I can go right back to the year 1995, sitting in Mr. Richardson's Biology 1 honors class, and I can remember just trying to envision, maybe I even drew a picture of like some little troll carrying a basidio, and like, for whatever reason, I linked those two things together really well, and I just remember from that day forward, like basidio means club. And he was carrying like this little club-shaped fungus. Asco means cup. So I'm sure I probably like drew a cup. And I don't know, probably just imagined somehow Asco being on there. And then this thing is probably like putting spores out in the environment. And I'm sure that for zygomycota, the little molds, right? Remember I kind of drew something like this. This is a fungus, right? And so I probably just drew, I'm sure I imagined like a little baby in here, like a little tiny fetus. Little arms and legs and all this stuff. So, just whatever it took. But once you got it, you got it. And the thing is, zygo or zygote, that's here for the rest of the year. Like we'll be talking about zygotes with plants, and we'll be talking about zygotes with animals, and we're talking about zygotes with fungus. It's worth knowing. It's not going anywhere. You'll have to know it, okay? Asco, I don't know if you'll ever come across that the rest of your life, but you will today, or in this class, and certainly for this test. Most words really do translate. What does chloro mean? Green. Good. What does phyte mean? Plant. What does zoa mean? Animal, life, right? Okay. Where were we? Modes of nutrition. Essentially, obligate aerobes must live with access to oxygen. They must. Without it, they'll die. Obligate anaerobes cannot exist in the presence of oxygen. You should be asking yourself right now, why would something ever want to not have oxygen? Okay? I realize it's semester 1 stuff, and most of you haven't had semester 1, and so you don't know about ATP synthase and all these things. One quick refresher though, okay, is this. No oxygen, and the most you can yield is 2 ATP. With oxygen, you can yield something on the order of 36 ATP. Imagine you went to steakhouse and ordered filet mignon, and you took one bite and threw the rest of it out. Said another one, please. Took one bite, threw the rest of it out. Took another one, said one bite, and had one bite and threw it out. Your bill's going to be huge, right? It's going to take you a lot more steaks to get full. It's wasteful. Not using oxygen is extremely wasteful. So we can understand like this, like, okay, well maybe I don't have oxygen, can I, because these guys, if they don't have oxygen, they die. These guys can survive either way. They're adapted to it. By the way, you have certain adaptations to this, right? We talked about how you make lactic acid, right? Lactic acid fermentation. You can do that for a little while, but eventually you'll die. But it's very wasteful. It's like throwing away the rest of the food. These guys can't even handle it. They will die in the presence of oxygen. And so you should be asking yourself, why is that? And by the way, like this, where they cannot live with oxygen. The reason is what oxygen does. So, you get a cut. What does your mom do for you? What are some options? When you get a cut, what did your mom do for you when you were a kid? We'll see if she did what my mom did.
Alcohol.
Alcohol, maybe. What else? Hydrogen peroxide. What else? One more thing. She didn't kiss it. No. Yes, like an antibiotic ointment, right? What do all three of those things have in common? Trying or destroy an infection. Alcohol destroys an infection by poisoning it, right? Antibiotics will destroy the infection by preventing them from forming cell walls. How does hydrogen peroxide affect it? Well, what happens is you have an enzyme in all of your cells called peroxidase. And peroxidase breaks down peroxide into two components, into water and into oxygen. Well, bacteria and stuff love water, so that's not a problem. So that's not going to help you. It's the oxygen. When you flood them with oxygen, oxygen is what's called a reducer. And I realize, again, that's back to chemistry and all that kind of stuff. But basically, it steals electrons from things. So, and it does it to you too, by the way. Which is why maybe hydrogen peroxide is not such a great idea for your cuts. Because yes, it will help destroy bacteria, but it will also destroy your cells. Your cells can't handle a pure oxygen environment. And so what the oxygen does is it just takes electrons out of things and it just destroys their shreds. Okay? And all the aerobes obviously are, God has given them all the machinery, all that adaptation they need to be able to survive oxygen. These guys cannot. They're literally just built differently. They can't handle oxygen, they will die. Okay? So that was a fun fact. Why? Because it will, your body uses an enzyme to break it down. Hydrogen peroxide, the chemical formula is H2O2. So it looks like this. You take an enzyme, you get a couple of these. You don't have to know this. This is just to put the pieces together. This will not be on a test. This is for your mind. And, you know, you have an enzyme that comes along called peroxidase, and it breaks this down. And so you're going to get H2O. Right? How many hydrogens do I have? Count them. 4. How many do I have here? 2. So I need 2 of these, right? 2. How many do I have up here? 4. So I'm going to need 1 of these, right? So you take 2 H2O2 using this enzyme as a catalyst, and you make water and oxygen in mass quantities. All of a sudden, all those little bubbles you see from hydrogen peroxide. What is it? What gas is it? It's oxygen. It's just oxygen. Okay? And so it will destroy these little cells because it's really good at doing that. Well, all the anaerobes can't even handle the level of oxygen in the air around you. Don't do this, but it would be cool if you ever did. There are labs that you can do in chemistry that will do these kinds of things, where you take hydrogen peroxide and you use a catalyst, not your blood, but I'm encouraging you to use your blood, you know, like just mix some of your bleeding, just pour some on you, and then take a match and blow it out, and then just hold it up to those bubbles coming off, and it will reignite because it's such an oxygen-rich environment. It's really cool. Fun fact. How could you put a match out instantly with just carbon dioxide? So for that, just take your vinegar and your baking soda. It'll produce carbon dioxide. If you did it in a cup, that cup, it's really, science, God does amazing things. So you take your vinegar and stuff like you would for a volcano, and all the air in here very quickly is going to be CO2. And now you could have a match here, right? And I can pour this CO2 over it. I can literally just take Zolta and you just pour it over it, and that match will go out like that. But then if I had another cup where I had some H2O2, some hydrogen peroxide, and all I would have to do is put like a drop of blood, just a single drop, and just let it sit, because the enzymes in the blood, the peroxidase is not going to get used up. That's the definition of an enzyme. And pretty soon this whole thing is going to be filled with O2. And then I could just I could have a match that went out, right? And it's just like streams with little wisps of smoke. And I could pour this on it and it will reignite. In fact, you'll actually see the flames ignite first and run back to the match. It's really cool stuff. There you go. That was free. It has a little bit to do with the fungus, and maybe I just want to talk about blood. So, let me erase this stuff. What is coming? Together. Name another Greek prefix that means together. Sim or sin. Very good. Bio. Life. Eno. Inside. Ecto. Outside. Good. A. Without. Good. Very good. Good. All right. Where are we at? All the anaerobes, facultative anaerobes, saprobes, you already learned about that. Some fungi are parasitic, infecting either plants or animals. Smut and Dutch elm disease affect plants, whereas athlete's foot and candidus, or known as thrush, are medically important fungal infections in humans. Thrush is in the throat, right? In environments poor in nitrogen. Look out for that when you have kids, by the way. They start getting this coat of white all over the inside of their, it's fungal. Like, just wait, you don't even know when you're a baby. But yes, do wait. In environments poor in nitrogen, some fungi resort to predation of nematodes. Nematodes are little tiny worms. So it's saying like these fungi actually like hunt the nematodes, which is crazy cool. In fact, species of Arthrobotrys fungi have a number of mechanisms to trap nematodes. One mechanism involves constricting rings within a network of hyphae. They touch the nematode, gripping it in a tight hold. The fungus then penetrate the tissue of the worm by extending specialized hyphae called haustoria. So they'll it's crazy. They've grown around this thing and trapped it. And now they just put these little tiny cells and they grow them in to it. Have you guys seen Animal Planet? Or not Animal Planet, I mean, what's it called? I think it was Planet Earth, put out by the BBC probably 15, 20 years ago now. But one of the coolest ones was when they would do the rainforest, and you'd have some poor little grasshopper or whatever who would get infected with a fungus. And the fungus would grow haustoria into the insect's brain and kill it and digest the organism's body and then pop up this crazy looking little fungus. You ever seen that? No? Do you want to see that? Let's do that in a minute. Do you, right? All right, let's find this. I used to have the name of this fungus memorized, but I can't remember it right now. We'll find it. going slow today here.
This parasite is here to control the minds of its insect victims, with some species turning their into real-life zombies.
This isn't science fiction, it's science scary.
These terrifying brainwashers are cordyceps. Their spores enter their victims and set up shop immediately. Some of their closely related fungi cousins, the Ophiocordyceps, take it a step further, as one species, the Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, slowly takes over. It instructs the ant to act natural, tricking its colony mates into thinking everything's alright. When it's ready to spread, the cordyceps then compels the ant to climb up tall vegetation and give the north side of a twig or leaf a final bite, locking its jaw in a death grip. From here, the fruiting body of the fungus, also called the stromata, sprouts from the back of the dead ant's head and begins sprinkling the forest floor and the ant's colony mates below with even more zombifying spores. And so, the freaky cycle of mind control continues.
I could have been a better video. Let's see what this one did. Oh, no, that's the second.
This pair.
Did you know that there's a seriously freaky fungus that lives among us? The zombie fungus, for example, literally turns ants into zombies. What happens is when one of these spores from the zombie ant fungus lands upon an ant, it quickly infects the insect. And this spreads throughout its body to its brain, where it unleashes some chemicals. These chemicals control the mind of the ant. The ant that was once a happy part of the colony leaves and abandons its nest and heads out into the woods looking for the perfect conditions where the fungus will thrive. It climbs up to the perfect humidity. The ant, controlled by the fungus, then sinks its teeth into the leaf, locking its jaws in a death grip, unable to move. It stays there until it dies. The fungus then feeds on its victim until using it to create its mushroom fruit, which grows out of the ant's head like a long sci-fi movie. This mushroom then releases its spores into the air so the zombie ant fungus can start the process all over again.
That's scary stuff. Alright, well, let's go back to our stuff. Alright. Where were we? Ostoria, they grow into organisms. And, yeah, crazy. What else do I want you to know? All right. Let's, I think that will probably be good for what you need to know on fungus. Plenty more to know as far as detail of, we looked at coenocytic hyphae and how they had multiple nuclei inside of one, right? And they are always like that. Others, they don't exist like that typically until it's time to reproduce, and then they will come together and they will fuse the cells first, but not the nuclei, which is what normally happens in sexual reproduction. So nuclei will fuse right away. In most of your mushrooms and stuff like that, you're looking at lots of nuclei being in those cells, and they don't actually fuse until later on. And so it's very unique, and it's different among different ones, and I don't need you to know all that. Those would be details, super precise. You're going to be good, okay? But I do want you to make sure that we understand some of the big picture. Let's go back and let's kind of compare and contrast what we know about fungus so far to some of our other organisms, okay? So, fungus. Let's see. What have we looked at so far? We've looked at archaea. We've looked at bacteria. We've looked at protists. We've looked at fungi. And we understand that plants and animals are coming, right? Okay, so some simple questions. Okay, yeah, go ahead and write that down. That's good. Which things up here have unicellular species? Like they might go their whole lives unicellular. Speak up. First three for sure. Anybody else? Some fungi, right? Your yeast do this. So, okay. So unicellular, right? So that's everybody through fungi, right? Okay. Which ones? Some fungi. You gotta know that, guys. Gotta know that. Okay. How about multicellular? Fungi, who else? Plants and animals. Okay. Coenocytic. Ones are coenocytic.
Fungi can be.
Fungi. Only fungi. Okay. Which ones can be anaerobic?
Bacteria.
Archaea, bacteria. Fungi for sure, we did. We looked at all the
Protists
anaerobes.
too?
Yeah, some protists. Not plants and animals though. Let's talk about size. Which ones can be massive? Yeah, the largest organism on Earth is a fungus, right? Okay. How about tall? On land. I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it that way on purpose. Tall on land. Plants and animals. Not fungi. Massive, but low to the ground, right? Not tall. They don't have the structure, the superstructure to get tall. Now they can get tall relative to an archaea, bacteria, protist. They can get real tall, right? But generally not so much. How about parasites? You know what a parasite is? What's a parasite?
Something that's living.
It feeds off of a host. Okay. Archaea. Did we talk about any parasitic archaea? Nah. Bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. Protists. All those diseases we were talking about, right? Okay. Fungi. You just looked at one, right? That cordyceps, ringworm, athlete's foot, yeast infections, okay? Plants. Wrong. weird. You've never heard of a plant that was a parasite, but they are. There are some. In fact, it's Valentine's Day. So one of the most beautiful plants in the world can be sold, is sold at tons of grocery stores. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous, and they're parasites. Not a rose. Small, they, like in potted little things. You always see them with another plant. Orchid. An orchid cannot live on its own. It must have another plant. And there are a number of plants that are like this. It's fascinating. Are there animals that are parasites? Yeah. But not ringworm. What is ringworm? It's a fungus, right? Heartworms, those are worms, real animals. Okay. Well, good. What's above all else, what must you know about fungus? What do you think? What's the most important thing you should know about a fungus? They're saprophytic, which means they are decomposers. Life could not exist on this planet without them. It would be absolutely impossible. Not only would you be swimming in leaves and poop and stuff, yeah, because everything poops, but you couldn't, literally all the nutrients would be locked up in dead stuff. You have to have some, and if you can eat that something on a pizza, all the better, right? Okay. Basidio. Club. Asco. Cup. Zygo. Baby. Mold. Yes, molds. Deutero. Second. Good. Like Deuteronomy in the Bible. Deutero means second. Nomos means law in Greek. So second law, second giving of the law, second time you get the Ten Commandments. That's why it's called Deuteronomy. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. On Thursday, what's happening in this class?
Nothing. There's no class.
No class. On Tuesday, what's happening in this class? You have a test. Do you know what's going to be on your test?
Archaebacteria, protists, and virus.
Archaebacteria, protovirus, viroids, prions, right? And a little bit of your immune system stuff, right? Your immune response. You need to know some graphs. Do you know your graph? What happens? What's happening here? Their
nutrients are being used up.
They get used up, and what's happening right here?
Nutrients, so
Huh?
They've used all of it.
They've used all the nutrients. That's why they're not growing anymore. And what's happening here? What's happening to the ocean right here? It's turning.
Right.
Good. Okay. Good. You had another graph you had to know. Oh, it's this.
immune response.
Right? What's this?
First infection.
First infection.
Reinfection.
Second infection. And what is this measuring? What's on my x-axis?
Anti-corpse. Antibodies, yeah.
Antibodies. Good. Good. Antibodies attached to antigens. Okay. Anti means against. Okay. Good. What's the difference between an antigen and a pathogen? Antigen is the surface. What is or has an antigen? Everything. But what things are pathogens? Only things that cause diseases, right? Okay. What's the thing a viroid has?
Nucleic acids.
Nucleic acids, RNA. And what does it infect? Plants only. What's the thing that a prion has? Protein. Feed for protein. And what does it infect? Animals. What two things do viruses have?
Nucleic acid.
Nucleic acids and proteins. Some of them will have a little bit of membrane. Name something. Name something that has a membrane. HIV. Where did it get its membrane? From you. So its antigens are your antigens, so you don't recognize it very well, right? Or at all. And so that's a problem. Great disguise. What are the two life cycles of a virus called? Lytic and lysogenic. Tell me about lytic. What does it do?
One has 3 steps and one of them has 5 steps.
I'm not even asking you to know the steps. I'm just asking you to know the names. Think about the names. It's in, guys. I'm telling you, buy in, just commit, and just go. I'm going to learn this Greek because it's going to help you. Lysogenic. It's in the name. Genic. Genesis means. Yes, sir. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I think it means begin.
Of
Life.
life, right? In your first, what do they call it, the meaningful life, MLC, didn't they talk about how the genealogy, right? The origins of life, the origins of Christ. So it's that idea, lysogenic. It lets you live for a while before it. What do these things do ultimately? How do they cause problems? What do they do to your cells? They destroy them. They split them. Lysis means to split. So lysogenic, we let you live before we split your cell and kill it. And lytic, we kill it right away, right? And we just reproduce. Are they alive? No. No. Do they have certain characteristics of life? Yes, they can reproduce, right? And they're made of some of the things of life, but how do they reproduce? No, that's how everything else is going to reproduce. Yeah, they don't have cells. So how do they reproduce?
Using the host nucleic acid.
Well, they use their nucleic acid. They use your ribosomes and proteins and everything else to make them. It's kind of like the cordyceps fungus that we were just looking at, right? It infects, it takes over the brain of the host and gets it to do its will, and then it just uses the host and reproduces. Well, viruses aren't alive, but they come in and they take over your host mechanisms, your ribosomes and whatever else, and then when they've made enough of themselves, or when you've made enough of them, they burst your cell and infect you, right? And then your cell starts to recognize, like, oh my goodness, there's this thing and it's not good, and so hopefully very rapidly your body starts to make antibodies, right? That's what this is. First infection goes for a while, but then we peak out. And now at this point, we're winning the war, right? We won the war at this point. And now we don't need them anymore. But you have memory cells. And so your body remembers, and you get infected a second time, and you get chickenpox, but you don't know you got chickenpox because your body just went into crazy production, and you killed that chickenpox like that, and all you felt was, oh, I felt a little weak today. You never even knew that you had it, right? Because you are a beast at fighting things. You just didn't even know it. Antibodies, what do they do? What do they look like? Kind of look like this, right? Right? And what do these two things do? They'll attach. Like handcuffs. They immobilize and they handcuff things and lock them together, and they signal to your white blood cells to come kill this thing. It's really great. What time is it, by the way? Oh, we're good. Okay. Archie. Tell me about Archie. They like it hot. Some like it hot. It was a movie with Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe. Jack Lemmon and drag. That's really all you need to know. All right. Y'all don't even know who I'm talking about, do you? Do you know who Marilyn Monroe is?
Yeah.
It's black and white here. It's a movie. So, yeah, these things like it hot. Where do they live? Don't say hot. We know that. Although hot is in one of the names of the places they live.
Deep
Hot springs, right? And they also live
Deep ocean.
deep sea vents, right? Deep sea vents. There's no light. So how do they live?
Chemosynthesis.
Chemosynthesis. Chemo. Tell me what it means. Chemical. Syn. Together, right? Synthesis is to put together. So they put chemicals together to make glucose. Got to make glucose. It's all about the glucose. Okay. Good. Alternate to chemosynthesis would be, huh?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. What are you using to put together your glucose there?
Water and lights. No.
Well, but in the name, you're right about that.
Yeah.
But it's light, right? You're using the energy of light versus the energy of chemicals. Okay. Tell me about what else about archaea? So they're chemosynthetic. They like it hot. What else?
They don't harm us.
They don't harm us. What else? Other facts. My little 7-year-old boy Theodore was in here and he's asking you a million questions, and he would. They're autotrophs. Good. Auto means self. Autobiographies written by yourself, and troph, feeder, self-feeding. They feed themselves. The chemosynthesis, right? Okay. What else? He wants to know how big they are. What are you telling him? They are
Small.
how small? What are they made of? Are they alive?
Yeah.
So they've got to be made of cells. Tell me about them.
The unicellular.
They're unicellular. Unicellular, never multicellular. In an ecosystem, what's their function? Do you know? Do they eat? No. What happens to them in an ecosystem? They get eaten. Yeah, they are the food, right? They are the plants of the deep sea, vent. Okay. Bacteria. What's their closest comparison? What other organism is closest in characteristic to a bacteria? Archaeas. Why? What do they share in common? They are unicellular. What kind of unicellular? What kind of cells? There's a name for them.
Yeah, I know. It's actually
Like all life, we branched off into just
Prokaryotes.
2 branches. Prokaryotes, no nucleus. Good. They're very simple. Very, very simple. Tell me about their DNA. Do they have a lot of it? A lot or a little? Do you have a lot or a little? Compared to bacteria, you have a lot, right? But how do you store your DNA?
in the nucleus.
In your nucleus, in what shape? What structure? Chromosomes. Do you know how many chromosomes you have? 46. Do they have chromosomes? Say no. No chromosomes. Their DNA is just in a ring. Do they have any other DNA? Do, and you have to know about it. Some of them do, not all of them do. So it's another little ring. It's called a plasmid ring. You got to know that. And they can transfer that plasmid ring, right? It's called. If a husband, this, I probably shouldn't have this on a video in Christian school, but if a husband was in jail and his wife came to visit, there's allegedly, I don't know this for a fact anymore, but there used to be a thing called a conjugal visit.
Yes.
You can think about that. A husband and wife and a conjugal visit. Okay? Something's getting swapped. And it's the same kind of idea, though it's not the exact same, with a bacteria. When they exchange that plasmid ring, they hook together 2 structures. What are they called? Sex pili. Is it actually sex?
No.
No. It's just the exchange of a plasmid, right? They do 2 other things with DNA, right? What is it?
Take it out of the environment.
They get it straight out of the environment. Okay? It's called transformation, right? Transduction. Did I get it backwards? I do that sometimes. Transduction. And then if a virus gives it to them, it's called transformation. You Think you're gonna have know those three terms? Yeah. Okay. What else about a bacteria? What do bacteria and archaea both have that your cells don't have?
Have the cell wall and
They have a cell wall. Very good. What's a cell wall made out of for a? We should have that up here. Cell wall. That's a big one. Cell wall. Okay. What things have a cell wall?
archaebacteria
Archaea,
can have
bacteria, some protists,
fungi,
and
plants.
plants. Only thing that doesn't is
No, we need to move more.
pardon me?
We need to move more. Cell wall.
Yeah. What do you have instead of a cell wall? Cell wall is a very useful thing, isn't it? Helps protect you, be strong, helps you to grow tall or wide or whatever else. What do you have instead of a cell wall?
Bones.
Hmm?
Bones and
Bones. Good. What does an insect have instead of a cell wall? An exoskeleton in their shell. Yeah, they use it in the exact same way. Okay. So we're talking about bacteria. What's their cell wall made out of? It's a P word. Peptidoglycan. Two types of bacteria when it comes to peptidoglycans. What are they? Gram-positive and gram-negative. What's being stained in a gram test?
The amount of peptidoglycan.
The amount of peptidoglycan.
Antibiotics work.
Because antibiotics work on preventing the cross-polymerization of peptidoglycan. Gram-positive use a lot of it, so you can prevent it, and it's great. Gram-negative, only have like 10% of it, so antibiotics are not very effective. Why do you want to take all of your antibiotics when you have them?
You don't need the strong.
Because otherwise you're going to leave the strong behind, and you're going to get more sick than you ever were before. Very good. I know there's more that you needed to know about bacteria, but it's not coming to mind right now. Let's go to protists. What do protists have in common with the bacteria and the archaea? Unicellular. What are they? What's different about them?
The eukaryotes.
Huh?
The eukaryotes.
They're eukaryotes, which means they have a
They have nucleus and membrane.
nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Name a non-membrane-bound organelle. Ribosomes. Ribosomes make proteins. They read RNA and make protein. You can't function if you can't make protein. Everything that's alive has a ribosome. Name something that does not have ribosomes that we've talked about today. Three things. Viruses, thyroids, and prions. Very good. Okay. What was our prokaryotes? Or I'm sorry, eukaryotes. Protists are never truly multicellular, but they can be. Think Volvox or kelp. I drew kelp, you thought I was drawing a plant, right?
Yes.
But I wasn't drawing a plant. Because it wasn't truly multicellular. They don't require anything else. The cells are not specialized, right? That's called colonial. You need to know that. They form a colony. Okay. Modes of nutrition for protists. Name some. And animal-like? Eat and plant-like? They make their own food, right? They do photosynthesis. Name a plant-like protist that functions in a symbiotic relationship with a fungus. Algae. Blue-green algae. We went out and looked at it, right? And they were different colors and stuff, depending on the different species of fungus and algae that are in. Name of some important diseases that are caused by protists. Which one is caused by the female Anopheles mosquito? Malaria. Which one is caused by the tsetse fly?
the African sleep.
African sleeping sickness, good. Which one is caused by drinking water, unfiltered water? Levic dysentery, very good. It's the #1 cause of death worldwide.
Diarrhea.
Dehydration due to diarrhea. I was just reading a biography of President Ulysses S. Grant, and he served in the Mexican-American War, and then after that on into California during the gold rush, and they had to cross the Panama Canal, and he was talking about like just how many people were dying of cholera, and it starts describing, he said you'd have a perfectly healthy man in the morning, he'd contract cholera, and he was dead by nightfall because he had all the liquids in his body. Not a good parasite, by the way. Like, I don't just mean like not good for you, but a really good parasite doesn't kill its host.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it'll find a way to just, you know, that's why like an orchid is a really great parasite. It does not kill its host. Ringworm is a pretty successful parasite. It does not kill its host. Kill your host. Guess what happens when the host dies? You die, right? It's not a successful strategy. All right. All right. You got anything for me? Any questions? What's the best thing you're going to be able to do to study, to prepare for this test? Ouch. Look over your notes, but I also gave you something, didn't I? Yeah, you made one in class and I sent it to you. I emailed it to you. One blank and one filled out. Why did I send you a blank one? So you'll practice just staring at the filled out one. Do your blank one. Print it out. Practice and then compare it to the one that's filled out. See if you know that stuff, okay? Work on your terms. You see any Greek prefixes in anything, learn them. If not for this, then for the rest of it, it's not going away. You'll be seeing these terms all year except for ASCO and Basidio, right? But the rest of them, you'll definitely be, they're going to be here for keeps. All right. God bless you. I'll see you next Tuesday. What's wrong with you? You tired? What's wrong? So, huh? So you're tired? No.
I need to rest. I'm so tired. I just need rest.
Okay.
Thank you.